right,
okay, let's start with this. I said it yesterday. I said it last week. Is one of the things I think is really important in the NFL is structure.
Sure.
Cleveland's got talent, no structure. Baltimore's got a great GM and a great head coach. They identify early. We want to play defense a certain way. We can't. Let's get an elite corner, Marcus Peters. It allows them to do other things defensively.
Sure.
They identify early with Lamar Jackson. This works. Seattle identifies. We need Jadeveon Clowney, Quadre Diggs. We can't play defense the way we want to play it with Pete. Identifying your problems. I watched last night, and I watched Sunday, and tell me if I'm over my skis on this. Baltimore, Seattle, A-plus coaches, A-plus running game,
Sure.
A-plus physicality, dynamic quarterbacks. That kind of feels to me, week 13 coming up or week 14, it kind of feels like, is Seattle a Super Bowl team to you?
Oh, yeah, I think there's three teams right now in the NFC that I could see representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, and that's Seattle, that's San Francisco, and that is New Orleans. And I think they're all fairly structured the same way. I mean, I think you look at the league, if you can control the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively, you've got a chance to win in this league. And I think in San Francisco, they do it some with their coaching, their tight ends, their motions, their shifts. I think they are exceptional at that, the way they run the football. Defensive line-wise, they've got, heck, what do they got, 5, 6 first-rounders? I mean, think about it. They took Solomon Thomas at number 3 overall, and he's a rotational guy. He comes in a rotational 25 snaps a game guy. He was the 3rd overall pick in 2017, just a few years ago. So they're all built that way. They're structured that way. And that, to me, is how you win football.
They can by the way, they're also running teams.
Right. Pete Carroll told me, he goes, the thing I love about this league right now, we're in this kind of retransformation of the way we think about the game, and it's coming back to what we used to be. The way you ran the ball, the way you controlled the tempo, the way you bludgeoned people at the point of attack. You look at Seattle with Chris Carson.
And Penny, who's now emerged.
Right. Chris Carson's a full-grown man, and Penny has got that, as a big guy, has got that breakaway type speed. So, yeah, that's how teams are structured now. Those teams are all structured that way. I think those are the three kind of quote-unquote class of the NFC.
So Jerry comes out and says, listen, we may be 6-6. I'm very optimistic. I like where we're at. And I said, if you just watched Minnesota last night, the losing team, if I was a Dallas fan, I'd be demoralized. Without Adam Thielen, without Dalvin Cook, Diggs didn't have a great game for him. They got an unlucky interception. They're on the road against Russell Wilson in Seattle. They had a chance to tie that game late. Like, Minnesota, the losing team, would discourage me if I'm a Cowboy fan. Is Jerry delusional?
Of course Jerry's delusional. I mean, Jerry is Jerry's own worst problem. The Cowboys will never, ever win anything as long as they're completely structured. You brought up structure at the beginning of this. Yeah. The way they're structured, I mean, if you don't empower your head coach, is there anybody that's afraid of Jason Garrett?
No.
Anyone. So, I've had this question asked. Being a Christian guy, people will ask, hey, why does it say in the Bible the fear of the Lord? Well, the fear of the Lord is, the response to the fear of the Lord is, it's awesome reverence is what that word fear in the Bible means. Okay. I have this awesome reverence for the Lord, okay? You've got to have respect for your head coach, but you damn well better fear your head coach. You think people that play for Alabama and Nick Saban are afraid of Nick Saban? You're damn right they are.
Oh, Belichick.
Of course. I played for Mike Shanahan. He's a good friend. He's an awesome coach. I had a great reverence for him as a coach and a play caller. I was scared to death of him at the same time because I know if I don't perform, I'm getting fired. If Mike Shanahan said something when I played in Denver, it went. You didn't go the back staircase up to Pat Boland's office and go, Pat, I don't like what is going on here. You can do that in Dallas.
Yeah, no, he does not. Jerry's not done a great job to empower his coach.
Sure.
And I do think there is a sense among players, they know that. It's Jerry's team.
Sure.
I think that's a very fair point. I don't know why, but I just like structure. I'm a creature of habit. So when I watch teams in the NFL, the first thing I look at is, do I like the owner? Do I like the GM? Do I like the coach? By the way, I love Jerry. He's good for my business, but I think your point's well taken. Speaking of lack of structure, it's ironic. This is the most talented Cleveland team in a decade. I don't think anybody would dispute that. I mean, running backs, wide receivers, pass rushers. Sure. This was the year. Baltimore's playing this young kid named Lamar Jackson. They're teaching him an offense. Cincinnati's the worst team in the league. Pittsburgh's on a third running back and a fourth quarterback. And the Browns are going to finish third. But here's my question. Identifying your problem's a real thing, right? Is it a Freddie Kitchens issue, or is it a Baker issue? With 3 different coaches and excellent weapons, Baker Mayfield completes 59% of his throw against winning teams, more picks than touchdowns, a 75 passer rating. Let's try to identify the problem. Is it Freddie or is it Baker?
Well, I would say this. If my head coach shows up and takes a selfie or a picture wearing a Pittsburgh Started T-shirt, he cannot be my head coach. He lacks, you wonder why they lack emotional maturity within that organization? Look no further than the head coach. I mean, I'm going to assume that he doesn't get kicked out of his house butt naked into a mall the first thing in the morning, and he's just scrambling to put on clothes. I'm going to assume he has a bathroom that has a mirror in it. And you put that T-shirt on in front of that mirror, and you looked at yourself and said, yeah, this is a good decision. You're too stupid to coach for me. If that's the decision that you are making, and you're supposed to be the face of that organization,
a $2 billion franchise,
and you're supposed to be standing in front of your team asking them to operate with some maturity and to make good decisions on the football field, and you thought it was a good idea to leave your house in that shirt. Oh, by the way, you do know your star defensive player is suspended indefinitely. Do you know what indefinitely means? It means forever. Unless the commissioner opens up his heart and his good graces and said, yeah, you can come back and play in this league. You understand the ramifications of what went on the other night? Do you get, like, that to me is you're too dumb to coach for us. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be a jerk, but I'm sorry that you can't do that. Well, and I know there's a bunch of people in Cleveland like, it was a joke. You know what that's a joke for? That's a joke for a 22-year-old that lives in his mom and dad's basement that's going to a tailgate to get drunk.
Well, no, I said this. When Baker Mayfield got drafted, it's we should have a new guy, like rolls his own cigarettes guy, exotic pet owner guy. I used to make fun of those guys. It's a joke guy. The difference between haves and have-nots in society is the have gets, that's a stupid joke, don't do it. And the have-nots think, that's funny. Like, you got to be able to get when to joke and when not to joke. As a head coach, you do not joke about a situation that got your best player kicked out of the league. And by the way, the league is trying to put a blanket on that situation because it was a really ugly visual optic for the league. And again, I don't know Freddie Kitchens. I have a source in the league that told me he was a loved position coach. He was funny, he was joyful. And then they gave him the head job, and he kind of puffed his chest out. You know, he'd never been a head coach even at the high school level, so I think it's tough for him. So I have some sympathy that he got a job that's he's a little over his skis. So I have sympathy for him there.
Well, think about this. Think about, one of the things, and I was in London calling a game. This is several months ago, or a month ago, or whatever it was, October. And I'm talking to the commissioner. And I'm saying, here's what bothers me about the league and about kind of what goes on.
Yeah.
We let people that hate this league create the narrative of this league.
Yeah.
Right? We react to people that don't love our game. And I'm like, instead of being reactive, let's be proactive and let's set our own narrative. Yeah. As people who love the game of football.
We both do.
You've got a bunch of people that want to bury the league based upon, they want criminal charges against Myles Garrett because he could have killed the guy.
Yeah. He
could have killed the guy, right? And we need that to be tampered down, right? We need to swift action like the commissioner took, but we need that to go away. You're the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and you're bringing out that T-shirt before you face them again 2 weeks later? How stupid are you?
Yeah, no, it's bad judgment. And I have sympathy for people who get jobs and they're over their skis. I have sympathy for that. But you got to be smarter. Listen, when Steeler players came out and acknowledged our coach would never do that, That didn't help Freddie Kitchens.
Right.
I do think the good news for Cleveland, though, is they do need a new coach, and this does give them an out as an organization. John Dorsey can say, this is, I certainly didn't dress my coach. This is not acceptable. Sometimes you need an out when in a breakup. You need an out in a firing. And I do think this, John Dorsey doesn't want to fire the guy he hired. This gives him an out. He can go, he wore that shirt. That obviously I think it's horrible. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.